Matthew here from MiniWargaming.com, and it's time for another Sit and Talk. This is the Ask Me Anything show where you ask me anything about anything. It could be on the subject of wargaming, on business. Sometimes it gets into politics or religion, so if you are easily offended by those subjects, please do not watch this show, because I just don't want it to turn into some everybody gets offended, blah, blah, blah kind of thing. And if you want your comments or questions answered, make sure you leave a comment in the section below, unless you are watching this on YouTube, in which case make sure you click the link in the video description below and go to our website and leave a comment there, because it's just easier for me to print off, just like that. And then the way that we choose comments is I choose the top 10 voted comments. So if you see comments you want to be answered, make sure you thumb them up. Don't thumb down comments that you don't want to be answered, because that's just not nice. And then after the top 10, I just randomly choose questions. So as long as you get your question in before, say, the following Wednesday, you have a chance of having your question answered. There's always too many for me to go through, so I just spend an hour and answer as many as I can. So here we go. Doug I. Have Mini Wargaming ordered Steve a "This is my 2+ rolling" shirt yet? Well, that would be applicable if he actually could roll 2+. So many ones. So many ones. But actually, in this next campaign, I think you're going to start seeing Dave being the one that gets all the ones. Demidos, or Demidos. Hey Matt, still a Happy Vault member. Great. I have a few questions though. First of all, would it be possible for the rest of the Mini Wargaming crew to have a sit and talk as well? Perhaps not as often, but I think that watching these lets us get to know the people behind the screen a little better. I've had this question in the past. I could make an FAQ on it, but it doesn't happen that often. Where basically, I think it would be a good idea. We do have some, like Dave does his Shrine of Chaos every other Thursday. He does it live. Chris has his own personal show for his YouTube channel, Way of the Brush, but you can actually see it through Mini Wargaming's site. And so that's kind of his sit and talk kind of idea. As for everybody else, maybe eventually, Joel and Ash and Steve. But just we'll have to wait and see. They're very, very busy right now. Steve editing videos and being in videos, and Joel and Ash making War Machine battle reports. They've been making lots of them. Secondly, would it be possible to have a bio with all the employees in Mini Wargaming? Again, about getting to know the people we watch every week. And thirdly, will the website ever be upgraded or improved? I personally find the search function a little difficult to use. Yeah, I can guarantee, yes, the website will eventually be upgraded and improved. I recently was trying to do it. Like, I'm a web designer myself, but I'm not a very good graphic designer, so I can do the functionality and the back end stuff, but not the front end stuff. So recently we were looking for a webmaster, web designer, but just couldn't find the right person that has all the right skills, because it's hard. There's a lot of skills involved in making a really good website. Making just a simple blog or whatever, a simple website like for a painting commission service where it just needs to have a gallery and a blog and contact us and some information like that, that's not so hard, because you can just grab some templates and do it. But our site has a lot of functionality to it, just tons. Maybe more than you even realize, because it's all custom built except for the forums and the store, but the content areas is custom built, and there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes there for the vault memberships and all of that. So upgrading it is actually quite a large thing to do. The search function, I agree, needs to be improved. It uses Google search right now, but when you search, you're searching videos and forum and the store all at once. So I got to find a way to improve that. But I've been so busy making videos and narrative campaigns and all that. Like, we've been focusing a lot on content, and that's been improving our vault a lot. So it's hard for us to put that stuff aside to do the website. But eventually we'll just need to probably hire a firm, spend literally tens of thousands of dollars to get it upgraded. And that just will be something we'll eventually have to do to be able to see even more improvement in signups and everything like that. Ross the Boss 88. Hey Matt, 1, can you do a review of the Grey Knights Codex? Grey Knights are awesome in general, and I bought the Codex just for fun. I don't know if you'll see a Grey Knights review. We did the Space Wolves one because Dave is getting into Space Wolves. We kind of do them sporadically. We're not a regular review site, and we don't try to be, at least not right now. And so when we do reviews, it's kind of sporadic. Like Tyranid Codex came out, obviously I'm going to do that. The 7th edition came out, like, oh, that's an obvious one. Grey Knights, nobody really plays it, so you probably won't see it. I just answered your second question. Do you do Codex reviews of any kind? 3, also I have friends I want to show the hobby to. Do you have tutorial games for 40K and fantasy, or how to get into the hobby videos that are somewhat more recent, thanks to the website? I did have 40K tutorials for 6th edition, and so now we got to recreate those for 7th edition, which I don't know when we're going to do that. You are one of the reasons I returned into the hobby after a 2-year absence, starting almost fresh again. I was in 40k since 3rd edition, and most of my gaming was in 3rd and 4th editions. I am now doing Eldar, Imperial Guard, thanks to the awesome Kijiji purchase. High Elf, Space Marine, sort of, and we'll see where at after that. Love the battle reports. Vault member for life. Thank you, Ross the Boss. Nordstrom King. Dear Matt, what do you think is it that makes 40k more popular than fantasy? Sorry for my bad English. I am German. Keep up the good work. Greats Nordstrom King. What makes 40k more popular than fantasy? That's a good question. I think it's the genre. I think because it's not the models, because the 40k models and fantasy models, they all look fantastic. 40k maybe has availability for a bit more variety because they have vehicles and more monstrous creatures and stuff, but they've even started doing more larger stuff in fantasy as well. A lot of more monsters, a lot more variety there. But maybe there's more variety with the 40k. I think personally it's the genre. I think it's because it's science fiction over fantasy. But at the same time, not too long ago, fantasy was incredibly popular and 40k was not as popular. So I don't know. Maybe I think it's mostly the genre. I also maybe the actual game itself is going to play into that. Now I know a lot of fantasy players are going to disagree with this, but I find fantasy a little harder to play because you're stuck with the movement trays, which really does change how easy or how hard it is to move your models around. Now it makes it quicker to move them, but there's a lot more to think about. With 40k, it's just kind of you move your guys up and they kind of take whatever formation they take, and it looks really cool because of that. Also, I think this might be another one. Fantasy has a much higher model count. In 40k, you can build an elite army that has a handful of models. In fantasy, you can't really do that. You're always going to have blocks of miniatures. And so your basic army is going to start with you painting 50 to 100 infantry. And then they all get crammed into one movement tray or two movement trays, and they don't even look like they take up that much space. Whereas if you spread them out 2 inches apart, like in 40k, all of a sudden they take up a lot more of the table. And it would just look a lot cooler too. So I think a lot of those play into it because of the cost of 40k and fantasy, that if you have to buy more models and there's more time for painting. I think that's why a lot of the other games are starting to do better, like War Machine and Infinity and all these other ones, or Star Wars, because there's less models, for example, or to start off, and then the amount of painting that you have to do is a lot less, especially Star Wars. There's no painting that you have to do. So those types of games are a good starter game. 40k and fantasy will always, I think that people that get into those will always be more diehard than a lot of the other games overall, just because the more investment a game requires, not just in money, but in time, the more it'll make fanatical followers, because they put so much of themselves into it. Whereas War Machine and Hordes, while it does have good looking models and people do invest into the painting, it definitely plays a lot more to the game than 40k and fantasy do. 40k and fantasy play more to the narrative and to the models themselves, because let's face it, Games Workshop models look way better than pretty much anything else out there, even the War Machine stuff. War Machine stuff looks good, but 40k and fantasy stuff does look better overall. And I know people can disagree with that. It's a subjective thing, but that's definitely the way I see it. Howling Wolf 1337. Hey Matt, I also sent this to another mini wargaming account, but just wanted to make sure it reached you. I was just seeing your sit and talk, the one in which you said you only use 6 shirts for at work, and I thought we can help change that. I was thinking, now that the campaigns are kicking off and many people like them, maybe make some more simple shirts, some symbols with text. I took the liberty to make some slogans on the shirt. Maybe accompany them with an appropriate symbol, Necron symbol. It's just lines and circles, so no IP. You gotta be careful though, you'll be surprised. Or orc stuff, together with the following. Trader Kanum will never be my leader. Overlord Sobek was a weak leader. Overlord Sobek was leading us astray. Zug Zug Team Snagabog, and so on and so forth. Making shirts with these texts about the campaigns might be also good for sale. Yeah, that might be something that we could do. It's just, I guess somebody has to sit down and actually do it. It doesn't take that long, so I guess maybe we should just try it. Especially because you got a few thumbs up. Communist napkin. How is a napkin communist? Hey Matt, here's a short question with a lot of background for you. Wow, it's a big block of text. Look at that. That's the short question. I play 40k with a small group of friends. There are 6 of us that play regularly and casually, and about 3 more that play every once in a while. Recently, a couple of my players in my group have started to become hesitant to play with me because I seriously trounce them about every 9 out of 10 games. I don't play super competitive lists or anything. My main army is IG, Imperial Guard, which is a little bit more competitive when played that way. But more often than not, I play all Khorne Chaos Demons lists, which is not competitive at all, for fun. Either way, I win consistently, and it's starting to cause a little bit of tension in our group, where the people who lose more often are sometimes going so far as to accuse the people who win more often of abusing the rules or list tailoring. I know it's just a hobby, and if we're not having fun, we should take a break, which we've done in the past. However, everyone says they're having fun, and it's not a big deal, and nobody wants to take a break. I often volunteer to sit a game out and watch so that other people can play, but I do still want to play. I don't want the people who lose more often to hate playing with me, or even worse, stop being friends over this. Like I mentioned, I already field pretty non-competitive lists most of the time, and I don't want to go so far as to throw a game just to make them feel better. I know from personal experience that I wouldn't be happy if someone threw a game for me to win. I want to earn it. So here are my questions. Are you a very skilled player? As you are a very skilled player, thank you. Have you ever had a similar problem? What is your advice on the matter? No, I haven't had a similar problem because I get such a variety of opponents coming in, and a lot of them really know their stuff. And so the games are usually pretty good. But my advice on the matter would be to continue to try to create more fluffy lists. Say, you know, I'm winning all the time, so give yourself a new challenge. Not to throw the game, but be like, I'm going to create an even harder list for me to win with, and then I'm still going to try to win. So you still try to win, so you still get that fun competitiveness, but then you have like this handicap that you give yourself. So that's what I would do. That's what I find myself doing. If I know I'm up against a player who's not going to be as good, or whose army isn't as good, I'll purposely handicap my army, but I'll still try to win, because I'm too competitive to not try to win. And so instead of not trying to win, I create a harder list for me to win with. So that's what I would do. Just make your list harder for you to win with. Diet Haggis. I love watching the bat reps, but which battle reports do you like watching yourself? I enjoy the videos by Striking Scorpion, but I've not found many others I like to watch. Blue Table Painting seem to come up a lot, but I find the lack of editing and production a hard watch. Without wanting to big up your rivals, I just wondered what you guys enjoy. I'll be honest, I don't watch battle reports, not even our own. I just don't. I've never actually been interested in watching battle reports. It seems ironic as we produce them, and we produce a lot of them, and I enjoy making them. But I enjoy watching other games like StarCraft, things that I can watch that are shorter. The problem with battle reports in general is that they're too long. And I know that's funny because ours are 45 minutes to an hour long, and we could make them shorter by making them recap only, but in the end, more of our audience likes them the way they are than the way we used to do them when they were shorter. So yeah, and for me, I would probably be interested in a battle report if it was like multicam with a lot of editing. So they just kind of record everything, and then they just edit it down to like 30 to 40 minutes max. So there's a lot of banter. Not banter as in banter instead of the game, but more like it's just fast-paced rather than just we kind of just get what we get and we go with that. And you might be wondering, well, why don't you do that then? And it's just a cost thing, of course. Having more than one camera means we have to have more employees in there, and then the amount of editing would go from 15 to 20 minutes per battle report to a week or two. Well, seriously, it would go up to that much work. And so we'd create less battle reports, get less vault members, less people would be happy, and that wouldn't be a good business model. Maybe one day we'll have so many vault members that we'll be able to switch from trying to just do more and more and more to switching over to doing higher and higher production quality. That'll eventually happen, I would think. So we'll have to wait and see. Flugulus. Hi Matt, greetings from northern Germany, or as we say here, moin moin. Moin moin. I hope I said that right. Quick question. Do you and or Dave play Warhammer sometimes in your free time just as a hobby, or has it become only a job to play? I can speak for both of us in this, that we never play it in our free time, just as a hobby. Not necessarily because we don't like it, but because we don't have time for it. Yeah. And the nice thing is, we don't have to make time for it because we get to do it so much during the week. I don't think I'd want to, even if I had time, I don't think I'd want to play it outside of work just because of how much I already get to play it. Like there are some weeks where, in this past summer, there was some weeks where 5 days of the week I was playing battle reports. And on most of those days, I'd play 2. So there would be some weeks where I'd get 8 to 10 battles in. That's a lot. And after the end of that, you just don't really feel like playing. So yeah, it's more just a job for us. I ask because I think it cannot always be fun to play and filming the game at the same time. It's true. It's a job, and so sometimes it feels like a job. A lot of times it's fun, but it's a great job. I can't complain about that, but in the end it is a job. James Laws. Hi, Matt. I'm really loving the narrative campaigns. When will you do another gaming system campaigns? Will they be alongside a 40K one? Example, Monday War Machine, Thursday 40K. Yes. We'll never add another narrative campaign into another gaming system at the expense of the 40K ones because they're just too popular. So we have a War Machine one that's being worked on right now and started soon by Ash. And that'll be in addition. We'll probably put it out on Wednesdays or Fridays or something like that. Secondly, feedback for Storms of Ixia. Best so far. Thank you. My only request would be a full view of the armies involved, similar to how you and Dave have shown your entire Space Marines in Chaos. I really enjoy those videos, and it would be great to see the characters with their forces mustered. The thing is, I don't plan at the beginning of the campaign what forces, the entire force that will be involved. We just kind of let it grow with the narrative and try to make it work. So it'd have to be at the end of it, which should be interesting. And finally, can you think of a way to using tactical objectives in Zone Mortalis or on a 4x4 board? It's hard to fit the objectives because of the restrictions on placing them. You can change the restrictions. Just agree with your friends. It'd be like within 9 inches instead of 12 inches. And you fixed your problem. Flugelos. Hi, Matt. Greetings from Germany. Vault member for a year now, not regretting it for a second. Awesome. My question, does Chris collect any armies besides Eldar? Dark Eldar, maybe? Or does he avoid them like you do? 40K wise, I think Eldar is the only army he really has. Like, he's got models from all sorts of different things. He also plays War Machine. I think he does Mercenaries. And so that's the other army that we would do. When will we see Chris's Eldar in a battle report? I don't know. That's hard to say. I don't know. Garen Wolfsbane. Hey Matt, politically charged comment / question ahead. Ooh, warning to all the viewers. This past week I had a psychology professor compare conservatives to Nazis and ISIS. He went on a tangent blatantly degrading people of faith. As a disabled veteran, Christian, and conservative, it's safe to say that I was exceptionally offended. I found that a vast majority of higher education professors teach this way to their students. What are your thoughts on universities spreading liberal propaganda and rhetoric for fact without even trying to see the opposite side of the coin? I personally think that in schools, whether it's college, university, high school, or elementary school, religion should be mostly kept out of it. I know that's kind of funny because a lot of Christians might say we want religion in schools, but the problem is there's too many different religions. Maybe 50 years ago it would have been like, yeah, I want Christianity taught in schools because the majority of people in North America were Christians, and so that made sense. But now we can't say that anymore. There's too many different religions and non-religions, and too many different views for a teacher to teach any one of them. Even when teaching things like the theory of evolution or how things are created, it should be taught as what it is, as one of the theories. I had a teacher in grade 8 who did it really well. We were talking about all the creatures at the bottom of the ocean, the ones that are like by the geothermal vents. It was really, they're crazy, weird creatures. And I remember I asked the question, I'm like, how did they get there? Because I was thinking like, how did the stuff fall down and the life get created? And he replied, and it was interesting because I wasn't even thinking of the whole creation versus evolution versus whatever thing. And he's like, well, it depends. If you believe in God, and maybe God created them right there. And if you believe in evolution, then maybe stuff. And so it was very political because he was like, it depends, you know, it's not 100%, we're not sure. We don't know for sure. And so there's this side of it and there's this side of it. And I thought that was really good. Even in grade 8, I was like, yeah, you know what, as much as that didn't give me an answer because he really didn't know, he didn't like just say, well, you know, God put them there and that was it. Or at the same time, he didn't say, well, evolution, you know, things will find places where life can be supported and, you know, it starts off as single-cell organisms and grows and all that kind of stuff, whatever. He didn't do either of those. He kind of said, well, there's the two sides. So I thought that was really good. So yeah, I think that's how it should be taught, that, you know, if there's, you know, when you're teaching scientific theory, teach scientific theory. You want to teach about natural selection, about evolution, about all that. That's perfectly fine as long as it's taught in the right context, not in the God doesn't exist, this is the way it is, and that is that. And it should, at the other hand, it shouldn't be like God exists and all you Muslims are wrong and it's Christianity that's right. Like, obviously, none of those should happen. The exception to that would, of course, be in a religious school where you know you're choosing to go to a school that's Catholic or whatever, and they can obviously teach within that religion if they want to. But yeah, obviously, him going and comparing conservatives to Nazis is very inappropriate and unprofessional and immature, if I might add that. Being unable to just accept that people have other beliefs other than him, and that even if he disagrees with them, that maybe he should be a bit more sensitive. On a wargaming question, I have seen several times where people still think that flying monstrous creatures have to be swooping in order to jink. Nowhere in the 7th edition rules does it say this. Is there something I'm missing, or can my demon princes jink while on the ground? According to the rules, they can jink when they're on the ground. It just says flying monstrous creatures now just have the jink special rule. And it doesn't say when they're swooping or gliding, it just says they have it. Whereas before, it specifically said when they're swooping, they could evade, they could do a dive. And then it gave them a cover save, and so it was different wording specifically for them. Now they removed that and just gave them jink. So, which is interesting, because I think it's kind of nonsense that they get jink when they're on the ground, because, you know, you get the Nurgle Demon Prince thing where he jinks and gets a 2-up cover save against your Overwatch, and it's just like, oh, come on. But, whatever. But yeah, you definitely do get jink. Nothing in the rules would say anything against that, unless they FAQ it, but they have definitely not done that. Demon666, oh, that's a great name. Hey Matt, maybe a good idea for an upgrading system for characters is if they get an upgrade after each campaign that survive if you're doing a singular universe. Well, that's definitely what we're doing for the narrative. Like Khrushchev, for example, is going to be using Commissar Yarek's rules, which is, there's a lot of extra stuff. So he's basically kind of getting that kind of upgrade. So it's not we're specifically given a certain thing. It's more like we're using a different rule for him. And so you'll see him with all of that. Tiger Guy 786, I would love to see an RPG video series. I think either you or Dave would be a great GM, though for different reasons. Matt, you've made some really great stories and would have a great long-term story, but I think Dave would be fun because he'd do all kinds of exciting stuff in the moment that may or may not make sense after the fact, which is how I tend to run games. I'd also love to see what character ideas everyone comes up with. That's always great, seeing a concept you never ever thought of. It would be interesting. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Beats McGee. Hey Matt, been a Vault member for quite a bit now, and I think it's awesome. Thank you. Have you read the Officio Assassinorum data slate? I have, just recently actually, probably in the past couple weeks. If so, any thoughts? I think they look cool. Those assassins are scary. I haven't yet used them in a game. We're having some painted up right now, or I think Steve's painting some of them up right now. And you might see them in a future campaign or some one-off battle reports, but they are powerful. So I guess if they actually get to do what they get to do, because obviously they can just get shot down and killed, but not always easily, but really they're just a single model, so really anybody who really wants to concentrate on killing them could do that. But they all have pretty nasty stuff that they can do. So I look forward to seeing them. And they look interesting. A lot of special rules, so a lot of things to remember, but they do look interesting. Also, I'd absolutely love to see them in a battle report. I also think the Calexis or Evisor assassins would work really well in a narrative campaign. I agree. Autark Ryan. Matt, I dream of a day that both angry geese and apathetic grasshoppers can form civilized societies. You have big dreams, because I don't think that'll ever happen. Those geese and grasshoppers just can't get along. I am wee tutted. Oh, ha. That was great. Thanks for making me say that. He put it, just so everybody knows, I didn't know what I was reading until he says, I am, oh, that's out of focus. I am we taught. Yeah, anyways, sorry for anybody who get offended by that. Tempest 1989, hey Matt, love the bat reps. I want to join the vault, but finances say no. It's frowny face. That's okay. That's okay. One day maybe. A few questions today. You haven't done an Eldar beatmap bat rep in ages, apart from the Progenitor's Promise. When will we see more Eldar trickery? It's just, would people challenge us to battle reports? We just play against whatever they happen to have. So we don't have a lot of control over that. Also, what do you think of a winner stays on style beatmap bat rep? Each week, the previous winning army is challenged by the next opponent. The rule is that the army list cannot change. This would encourage more balanced armies in general rather than tailored lists. Obviously, tailored is a strong word. That's a neat idea. You probably get the impression that we're doing these battle reports regularly because they go out regularly, but we do them in spurts. So like somebody comes in, we play a bunch of battle reports, and then a week passes, somebody comes in, we play a couple battle reports, and a week or two passes, and then somebody comes in, we play 3 days of battle reports. So there's not really any way for us to have a good system like that. And really some people come in, they're like, I want to play against your Necrons, and I want to play against your Tyranids, or I want to play against your Space Marines. And so it'd be hard to have any continuity like that. Edwards Mason, hey Matt, a UK Vault member here, and I find that the demographic of the game is very science, mathematics, engineering based. What seems to bother us, specifically myself, is how badly the lore can be in Warhammer 40k. Examples are Tau neutron blasters, whereby simple Fourier analysis of Vespid wings could correct the control issues. Other examples are the Orc teeth currency, which wouldn't decay as described, or have no obvious binary old or fresh state. I'm not even going to get started on the tanks. I've often thought about writing a blog about the unforgiving engineering mistakes of the models that super materials wouldn't compensate for. So my question is, how do you reconcile this when playing the game? Personally, it makes me favor fantasy more and more. Mason. The way I reconcile it is I realize that certain fiction tries to be scientific and certain fiction doesn't. And so I just ignore it. And I kind of go with it. And it allows for really easy storytelling. When I do narrative campaigns, I can basically make whatever I want happen because the warp or old technology and so it's really easy for storytelling. And so you just have to kind of, I would just say, ignore it altogether. Just ignore it. Don't try to see any scientific stuff in it. I've seen the entire discussions on forums talking about how Tyranids would actually survive because when they consume a world, there would be a negative energy amount. Like they just wouldn't be able to make up for how much they lost in the attack and the transporting through space. And it's just like, come on, guys, that's just taking all the fun out of this. They're just a big swarm of bugs and they're coming in, they eat everything and they get bigger. That's their lore. Like, we don't have to look further than that. I do like science fiction that actually tries to be sciencey, like Asimov's series, the Robot series and the Foundation series. He actually, even though it was written a long time ago, they still hold because he tries to stay within scientific things, or just it's just you just have to go with it. It's fiction, and just ignore the inconsistencies. Warboss Daka, thank you for creating Mini Wargaming. You guys got me and my best friend into 40K 3 years ago, and we love your videos, so thanks. And remember, Daka 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 Wog. Thank you, Warboss Daka. Phoenix Ignite. Special Christmas episode. Have a big group, past and present employees. Hopefully people that are in visiting family, they will be able to stop in. Interesting idea. RWD Therapy. Hey Matt, just curious, do you film all your tabletop games that you play, or do you ever play games like 40K off camera and off the clock? We just talked about that. Everything is filmed. And does working 40 plus hours a week where you eat and breathe tabletop gaming ruin your love for the game outside of work? I would say no. I still read stuff outside of work. That's what I enjoy doing. I'll read some of the codexes and things like that. So no, it doesn't ruin my love for it. Crownblade. Hi Matt, as a Canadian, have you ever heard pizza being referred to as Manitoba sauce cake? I can honestly say no. I've never heard that until right now. Now, if somebody were to ask me that next week, I could say yes, I heard it in last week's comments from Crownblade. Mr. Freeloader, been out of Mini Wargaming and Warhammer 40K for the last year. Why did Owen leave? He just got another job where he had more hours. That's all it was. He was working part-time, needed full-time. We couldn't give it to him at the time, and so he got another job. As simple as that. Are you thinking about hiring more content creators, or is Ash the only one going to be hired? We're definitely going to hire more as we grow. So basically the way it works is the vault is growing right now. So every month there's more members in there, which means we're making more money every month from it. And so there's certain thresholds, like once we make this much more money, then we can afford to hire somebody else. It's never that whatever the amount of money that we make, that's the cost of it. It has to be more than that, because there has to be extra to bank for other expenses or just to save up money, because you always want to have cash flow. And so that's all it really is. As you watch us for the next 30 years, hopefully what you'll see is the vault will continue to grow, and we'll be able to hire more employees to cover more games, or to cover more certain or current games more thoroughly. And we'll just grow and grow and grow until you're just, so much stuff is being uploaded for every type of, or all the different kinds of games, that you just won't be able to keep up with it. And you'll be able to just watch your favorite stuff, and that's it. Astroman 1980. Hi Matt, just was curious of what your opinion is of the 40K MMORPG Eternal Crusade that is due out on the Xbox One and PS4 in 2015. Keep up the great work. Honestly, I really have no opinion of it, because I really haven't looked at it. I've been asked that before, but I still haven't really looked into it, so no opinion as of yet. Necronomicon. Hey Matt, you said that Ash plays all the little games. Maybe he could do some one-time bat reps on them just to showcase the games. We might eventually have him doing that. Right now he's working very hard and getting lots of War Machine stuff done, so it's only so much each employee can do. Role-playing gamer. Hey Matt, thanks for answering my last question involving the monoliths. It really helped me out. I just got one today, along with a lot of paints. However, wargaming problems, my local store was out of black primer. Anyways, the real reason I'm posting this comment is to talk about the glorious blue water bottle you had in the last sit and talk. It was the best blue thing in the whole video. You mean this thing? Isn't it manly? It was my wife's, but she's got like 3 or 4 of them, and so I stole one. Stale water. I haven't changed it for a couple days. Eisenstein. Hey Matt, have you fixed it so Steve doesn't have to pay for his vault membership? No, we charge him double. Loved the beginning of that battle report where he mentions it and you go, oh, vault member for life. P.S. Do you rent out Zombie Steve for parties? Of course, of course. Howling Wolf 1337. Matt, do you set your uploads to be published for the Mondays as you do on other days? I've noticed on Mondays I don't see a video until around 16-hour GMT +1, which is around 9 a.m. for you. Just wondering if it is a problem or not due to scheduling at your site or on YouTube. No, we don't, nothing automatically goes out. We upload videos long before they're just left unlisted or private, and then Justin posts them. Because if it was just as simple of when it shows up on YouTube, then yeah, we could just schedule it with the YouTube scheduler. But since we put them on our site as well, Justin actually does it. So basically we start work at 9 a.m. and it's one of the first things he does. Not always the first thing he does. But it also depends if there's content still uploading for that day, then it might go up later that day. Like this sit and talk, I'm recording it Friday morning and it's 4 today. And so it'll obviously be going out later this afternoon. CJMM14. Matt, I didn't mean to cause such a stir with my shower and deodorant comment, as I am a 40K gamer as well. I only meant to imply that the hobby is so expensive we can't afford deodorant or water bills for showers. All joking aside, I do hope we see more women in the hobby in the future. There are some really talented painters and gamers out there that are undiscovered. Yeah, I really have no issue with that. On a different note, if someone offered to become an MFL, do you mean VMFL, a Vault member for life? If you did just one Dark Eldar narrative campaign, you don't have to play the army just against it. Would you do it? If I had one person offer it, no, that's not enough. We've got thousands and thousands of members in the Vault, so one extra won't make the difference enough for me to want to do a Dark Eldar narrative campaign. If a lot of people offered, maybe I'd find a way to fit them in. As always, keep up the good work. Pugs, ZZZ, or Pugs. Hi Matt, I just signed up for the Vault here in the UK. Wales to be precise, that is awesome. After watching your videos for a while, I have to say that I'm loving it. Anyway, this leads me to my question, which is that I considered buying a year membership. However, I wanted to give you guys the most amount of money, and so opted for the monthly. Thank you. Even though the money is more spread out. Anyway, I was just wondering if you would prefer it this way, more money over a longer period of time, or if you would prefer initially larger injection of cash. Well, that's a hard one to answer. What I would prefer is everybody take the monthly and never quit. But statistically, when you look at the lifetime, like how long people stay a Vault member, when somebody buys a yearly membership, that is on average higher than the amount that you'd make from a Vault member because they're getting a whole year, and a lot of people drop off after the first couple months. Not, when I say a lot, I don't mean like a higher percentage, just enough of a percentage that it brings the average, how much you make per Vault member over the years. And so by having the yearly, it locks people in better and all of that. But if for individually, like if an individual says, I'm going to stay a Vault member for the next 20 years, would you prefer me to have a yearly or a monthly? I'd say definitely monthly. Because like you said, we'll make more money off of that. And I don't care about getting the injections of cash from the yearly. That's not what the yearly is about. It's about trying to keep people longer in the Vault. And so giving them the option. By having the options of the different levels of membership and the different, if you want to do monthly or yearly, it allows a more likely circumstance where somebody is going to sign up. Whereas if they're checking out and there's only one option, then you might have some people not sign up because they'd like a yearly option, or they don't want a yearly option, or they'd want a cheaper membership, or they want the more expensive membership, or whatever happens to be. So all of that is calculated to try to make us the most money per person. But on it, that's when you look at it on a large statistical scale. When you look at a single person, they're never statistical because they either do it or they don't, right? You're either 100% or you're 0%. Like it's just, statistics don't mean anything to an individual. It's only on the mob scale. And so yes, the monthly would be better for us. So thank you very much. Keep up the great work. I feel that it gives me a great way to relax with Warhammer 40K when I haven't got the time or strength to paint or build my models after hard day's work or the gym. Well, thank you. Alasso. Oh no, I just want to clarify, if you are a yearly Vault member, I have no problem with that. Don't think, oh shoot, he wants me to be a monthly one. Now I feel bad. Honestly, just be a Vault member, and that makes me happy. Don't care what level, or monthly or yearly, just if everybody was a Vault member, we would have an enormous studio and we'd be able to hire tons of content creators, but even with just the percentage of people that are in it, we're able to do what we do. Alasol, hey Matt, just recently became a Vault member, and thanks to your learning Affinity, got involved in the game. Well, thank you, and good job. I think you are making the best battle reports out there. Any chance of more Infinity content? Well, thank you for the compliment. we're putting out Infinity content now every other week, and it looks like we're going to be able to maintain that, especially now that Ash is here, so I can use him to do Infinity in case if I just have a gap and nobody's able to come in, then I can play a game against him and we'll be good. So you should see Infinity content every other week. More than that, not yet. We just don't have the manpower to do it. Was Daka 420. Haha, I can't believe my joke about Steve bringing in revenue was actually stated. I really appreciate that, fellow Vault members, and of course Matt and crew who make this all happen for us. My question about the Storms of Ixia campaign is quite simplistic. Don't warp storms generally open small holes to the warp to allow for demon incursions? And if so, wouldn't a featuring of Dave's Chaos Marines or even just Chaos Demons been warranted and fun? Vault member for life, Eli. Yeah, I totally could have made that happen. But like I said before, the 40k universe allows me to do whatever I want, which is kind of nice. And Warp Star, yeah, the answer is yes, it could have happened. We already had 3 armies, didn't want to mix in a 4th. Actually, we already had a 4th if the Space Marines come in and didn't want to mix in a 5th, just get too much. Felindu. Hey Matt, me and some friends started playing a game called Relic Knights, and I was curious if you have heard of it. This sounds familiar, but that's about it. It is a sci-fi anime-inspired skirmish game developed by Soda Pop Miniatures, the guys who make Super Dungeon Explorer, and Ninja Division, the guys who make Hell Dorado. It sounds familiar, but I really don't know anything about it. The Lord of Silence. Hi Matt, this is the first question I have submitted, so I doubt that it'll be answered straight away. Well, your doubts have been undoubted. But I intend to persevere for a little and hope it will be one that you answer someday. You have mentioned that you used to play the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, but play it no longer. Well, I personally think this is a shame, as Lord of the Rings is the main reason I got into GW's products. Same with me. I would like to know if you are interested in Middle-earth as a whole. If so, what do you think of Tolkien's creation versus Jackson's interpretations? And what do you think of the Hobbit films, presuming you have seen them? I love Middle-earth. I love the Lord of the Rings. The movies, Lord of the Rings, I absolutely love. The Hobbit movies, not as big a fan of. If I was to compare, I would rate the Lord of the Rings movies an 8 or a 9 out of 10, especially The Return of the King. That would definitely at least be a 9 out of 10. I just loved it. The Hobbit is more like a 6 or 7 out of 10. It's enjoyable, but a little too goofy. Now I realize that it's based on a book that's more geared towards children, but the movie really isn't geared towards children. So making it goofy, there's just too many things that are over the top. And I really, really don't like Legolas in it. Sure, have him make a cameo, but he is playing way too big a role because he wasn't even in The Hobbit. And so I understand bringing him in because it's Orlando Bloom and it's Legolas and all the girls love him and blah, blah, blah. But he's played way too big a role in this. It just kind of pulls me out of it. But I do enjoy the movie, which is why I give it a 6 or a 7. Like a 6 or a 7 is definitely worth seeing. It's just, So I found the first 2 movies I liked just as much. So I enjoyed it. Definitely we're going to go see the 3rd one, hopefully in theaters. Just because I'm such a big fan of Middle-earth, that kind of pulls me into it regardless. But yeah, I definitely like the Lord of the Rings trilogy a lot more than The Hobbit. Also, keep those narrative campaigns coming. They are wonderful, and all of you at Mini Wargaming are awesome people. God bless you. Thank you. Amorphous Cube. Matt, you mentioned that you had played the 4th edition of D&D and didn't really like the direction they took with the game. This made me wonder, have you heard or seen anything about the new 5th edition of D&D? I have heard about it, but I have not yet seen it. If not, I suggest you check it out, since it seems to be closer to what you would be interested in. For example, playing without miniatures is the default now, and characters are much simpler now, unless you use the optional rules for feats and multi-classing. The basic rules are available online for free. Might be worth looking at if you ever find the time to play or want to do an RPG show. I will definitely think about that. Doug I. Bit cheeky, but leaving a second question. I'm part of a minority group which is highly discriminated against, even though we have only been playing 40k a few months. Yes, I'm an Imperial Knight player. I find it really hard to find games that people don't want to play me. What's wrong with fielding 1 Errant, 2 Paladins, a Lancer, and soon a Castigator? Does it make me a bad person? Winky face. Tongue firmly in cheek. Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever want to just be an Imperial Knight player. They're definitely cool models, but it's such a not a cheese army. The army is not cheese, not by any stretch of the imagination, because their points really represent how good they are. They're expensive. You can only bring in an 1850 game. You can bring 5 of them, and your opponent, if he knows you're bringing them, could totally destroy them. Just absolutely crush them without any super heavies. Just with knowing that you're going to be bringing armor 13, super heavy vehicles. There's just so many ways to defeat that. The problem is when your opponent isn't aware of them, then you're just going to tromp through them or trounce them, because so much of their stuff won't even be able to touch you. Your rear armor being, yes, 13, 12, 12. Rear armor being 12 means that a minimum strength 6 weapons are required. And yeah, it's just not going to happen. So they're kind of that, you know, they're too specialized, which is why I would never play them as just an army. Now, unless of course it's a special one. We did a battle report, I can't remember if it's up yet, where it was all Imperial Knights versus like Carnifexes in a barbed hero duel, and that was fun. Especially because there was a gentleman's agreement that he wouldn't just sit back and fire at the Tyranids because obviously he would win, so he actually charged forward. So it was a very, very fun game. TJ Doody. Hi Matt, I used to proclaim that Codex imbalances were all perceived and that any army with the right tactics could defeat another army. Having recently started collecting my second army, Dark Angels, I am seeing this differently. When I compare my Space Wolf Grey Hunters to Dark Angel Tactical Marines and my Blood Claw Bikers to Ravenwing Bikers, I am struggling to see how Dark Eldar are as good as the Wolves. It seemed to me like the Space Wolves got some serious love from GW in their new Codex, and they look to be one of the better armies these days. What's your view? Can anyone beat anyone with the right tactics and a little bit of luck on the dice? Or are there some armies which always have an advantage? There's definitely an imbalance between the codexes. Definitely. A huge imbalance between the codexes. That certain ones will be the rock to another one's scissors, or vice versa. That is definitely present in 40K. The thing that kind of balances it out, not really, but kind of, is the players. You just kind of, if you're the player with a good army against a player with a lesser army, then you try to not build the perfect list against it, or you do something narrative or something fluffy. The problem I really see is not so much the imbalance between codexes, but the imbalance within a codex. That you'll see people not even use half of what's available in the codex because it simply isn't as good as something else, which I agree with. There's things within a codex that's like, for the same points cost, I can have this thing which does the same function. It's not even like this is shooty, this is close combat. It's like this is another close combat one, which is better than this close combat one and the same amount of points or less points. But I don't care about that. I'll bring the other things anyways. But there's so many players who won't. They'll just be like, why would I bring that when this is so much better? And the answer is because it's a frickin' game and this stuff looks cool. Like flayed ones for Necrons. Totally useless in a competitive game, but they look so cool and they're just so intimidating. And if they do get into close combat, they're actually quite good. But it's always better to bring warriors. Warriors are more effective than flayed ones. It's just the way it is. So you could just, and that to me is the real problem. When players refuse to go outside of the things that are really good within an army. So, and you need to be able to play those other ones. So that to me is what kind of balances up 40K, is when players are willing to go outside of that, then all of a sudden, the codexes are kind of balanced. If you're willing to use everything in a codex, you'll find that generally they are balanced against each other. It's just that there's specific combinations of units which will beat another codex no matter what they bring. Or unless you roll horribly throughout the whole game, but statistically they will beat other codexes. But once you're willing to use everything in a codex, then I find they generally balance a lot more. Whoa! An entire page almost for one person's. Murden, hey there Matt, I have a question regarding fantasy and War Machine content in the vault. Okay, maybe I'm going to have to summarize this. I'm a Warhammer player and have a very, very little interest in anything War Machine related. I respect that game. I even own several miniatures. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, that is of course. Now to what I wish to talk about. You see, saying all that, I couldn't care less for all the War Machine content in the vault. But I would like to see fantasy. That by this point has become something of an urban legend, a story told around the bonfire by those who once in the ages old witnessed it amongst the vault pages. But now no one in the vault properly remembers how that fantasy looks or plays like, as it has almost been forgotten. Are you getting my point? Yes, you want Warhammer Fantasy in the vault. I get it. It seems extremely unfair to me that despite rather large margin of players who would like to see it, they are being ignored. I do not wish to bash the War Machine fan club, neither do I want you to keep pumping up War Machine content. But as someone who does really not care for that game, and I believe I am not the only case around here, it's true, I would actually like to see more of what I'm interested in, mainly 40K and fantasy. Okay, so a solution of any kind. Heck, even a single fantasy battle report per week would be something. I do not plan on canceling my subscription, and I dislike the if you don't like it, you can cancel it. So please do try to avoid that train of thought. But I would like to see something done, as this is not a problem that arose just yesterday, but has been persistent. See, the problem is, and I'm not just going to say, oh, if you don't like it, then cancel your vault membership, because well, obviously I don't want you to do that. The problem is, it's not just fantasy. There's a lot of people that want fantasy, but there's been a lot of people asking for all sorts of games. What it comes down to is what we can do consistently. And right now, we can't do fantasy consistently. We just can't. So we wouldn't be able to do even the 1 day a week of fantasy content. We just wouldn't be able to. Not yet. Not without hiring more people or doing less of the other content that we already do. So to me, the most important thing that we can do is be consistent. There are all sorts of games out there that people want to see. And there actually are more popular games in fantasy, such as Star Wars X-Wing, the miniatures game. That one, as far as the numbers show, is more popular than fantasy, and yet we don't even cover that one. The reason that we're covering more War Machine is because fantasy is also Games Workshop. And we don't want to be an exclusively Games Workshop site. It's not that we don't like Games Workshop, it's nothing to do with that. It's the legal implications of it. That if we are exclusively Games Workshop and we are making money from that, then it gives them that much more of a reason to have a problem with us. Whereas if we cover other gaming systems, such as Infinity and War Machine or Star Wars or whatever these things are, all of a sudden, our site is not a Warhammer site. It is a war gaming site. And so legally, they'd have a lot harder time having a problem with us, because they can't just be like, you're making money off of our IP. It's like, no, we're making money off of wargaming, and this is, you know, it's all under fair use and everything like that. Whereas if everything was 40K, as much as they still wouldn't have as much legality, they could still really go after it and cause problems there. Now, so far, they haven't given us any legal issues whatsoever, because I think that everything we're doing is within the bounds of the copyright laws all over the world, and we'll keep it that way. But I'm still uneasy about making everything purely Games Workshop. And so to me, it was more important to build with the War Machine audience, which actually is becoming more popular than fantasy in a lot of areas. And I think it will eventually become more fantasy more popular than fantasy if it hasn't already done so. So it's also a popularity thing. War Machine is pretty much more popular than fantasy. But even if it was close, the whole not wanting to be exclusively Games Workshop is the other reason why we wouldn't do that. So that's why we're focusing on building our War Machine audience. But we will add fantasy back into the mix once we can afford to, once we can build up our Vault membership to the point where we can have another one. It's always going to be something we sacrifice. You might say, well, there's people out there who would sign up for a Vault membership if you did fantasy, and that is absolutely true. And there's people who would sign up if we did Star Wars, and they would sign up if we did this. But we have to focus on what is working, and we have to put our resources into that. So what it comes down to is, unfortunately, it's just going to have to wait. It's going to have to wait until we are able to do it. I totally get what you're saying. You have no interest in that. I remember back on the day when I first got into wargaming and I got Lord of the Rings. That's what I was interested in. I was not interested in 40K or fantasy. And then I would go to the local store and they didn't have any Lord of the Rings. And then I got the White Dwarf magazine and it was 90% not Lord of the Rings. I was frustrated and thought, why can't we be more represented? And so I totally get what that feels like. And so hopefully we will be able to do more fantasy in the future. But once we do it, we're going to do it. It's not just going to be sporadic and showing up every once in a while. It's going to be something that we plan and we do on a regular basis. So that's all I can really say. That's all I can really say at this point. So I get what you're saying, but unfortunately I can't do anything about it yet. Contempt. When it comes to models and the many combos, example the Devastator with last cannons, plasma cannons, etc., rather than buying models for each and painting them, why not magnetize? Seems more cost effective. Definitely is more cost effective. I definitely agree. So if you're able to do that, that's fine. I like to get each of them, but it's different on our economy of scale here. We can afford more miniatures because then I can field more. So if I have like a Devastator squad, for example, and they're all magnetized, I can only field one Devastator squad. Whereas if I have a Devastator squad of last cannons, one of plasma cannons, one of whatever, or missile launchers or whatever, then I could field the 3 Devastator squads. Sure, you might say, well, you might want to field 3 Devastator squads of plasma cannons. That's true, but there's more cost involved in making the 3 that are all magnetized than the 3 that are not. So it's really, that's just what it comes down to. On a personal basis, yeah, I would recommend that. So you get the maximum value out of your purchases, because at your economy of scale, on a personal level, not a business level, things are more expensive for sure. Gollin Bursty. Hi Matt, my local group has been branching out more and more from 40K recently. Firstly, I introduced War Machine and Infinity, and now a couple of the other players want to try Malifaux and Relic Knights. I have no problem with this. In fact, I really enjoy it. However, the reason I mention this here is I'm wondering if we'll be seeing Malifaux, Relic Knights, and other games on Mini Wargaming. I tried searching your site to see if you already asked, but all I found was you taking a walk and mentioning why you didn't carry Malifaux in your store. So I'm guessing it was old. Yeah, that was really old. As a side note, Canada in the background of the walk looked very pretty. I envy your ability to have greenery. Where are you that you can't have greenery? That's interesting. Um, I don't know. I can't really say what games we're going to cover in the future. Malifaux is unlikely because I've said this in the past, and I know I'll be bringing up grievances again, but I just find there's too much sexuality in it in a lot of the models, so probably won't be doing that one. Don't know about Relic Knights or all those. Really, as we expand, we're going to have to look at what's popular, because that's really what it comes down to. Is we have to cover what's popular, because our business model is getting viewers over here and buying our Vault memberships, and so while we do have the power to make something more popular, that's a slower process than just getting on something that's getting on board with something that already is popular. So I don't know what games we'll cover in the future. We'll have to wait and see. Wilhelm Screamer. I think the Vault members forum is busted. Despite being a Vault member, the site keeps telling me that I don't have permission to view the page. I think you should contact customer support about that, because clearly there's something wrong with your account. So support@miniwargaming.com. The big feedback I have that I did not see much commenting on is Steve. He's passionate and loves to play, which is good. So hold on. On the Kinder Egg thing, I'm just going to skip that paragraph. On the Kinder Egg thing from the Sit and Talk, yes, FDA is a US thing. The specific ban was because of the prize inside of the chocolate. Can't have a little plastic thing inside something children would eat. Well, it's inside of a plastic egg. There's a plastic egg which has the coating on top of it, and then inside that is the little toy. So, but whatever. Also, have you ever considered getting some giant Gothic and monolithic dice towers for those times and you don't want the dice rolling all over the place and knocking things over? Meh, not really, because that just takes up more space. Murden. Hey Matt, as a devoted Tau player, love the fluff, the miniatures, and everything about them. It pleases me much to hear that there are quite big plans for them in mini wargaming. I don't know if I said there's big plans. We're getting some Tau, but I don't know if I would consider that big plans. Also, seeing the number of comments in the last Sit and Talk concerning the Tau, I am sure a narrative campaign of some sort will be most welcome. Just one last thing, Matt, could you please include a small pop-up box at the beginning of each Sit and Talk with the email address? Not all of us are native English speakers, and even though I believe I got the address right just from not hearing it, would actually help a lot to see it written down for my brain to process some kind of visual data as well. I tried to email you but never got an answer, and as such started doubting if you ever got it. Well, if you still haven't got an answer, now this is from 6 days ago, then you didn't get it right. It's Matthew, that's M-A-T-T-H-E-W, at miniwargaming.com. Now miniwargaming.com should be easy because it's just the address of the site. So Matthew with 2 T's. Jebu911. I'm really waiting and excited for the Tau narrative campaign. Did I say we're making a Tau narrative campaign? I said we'll eventually make a Tau. We don't have specific plans for one, unless Dave said something about one. I think it would be a good idea if you guys did some sort of map of the planet for the campaigns. Any plans on doing something like that? I'd like to. I'd have to find a person who could do the graphics well enough, fast enough. Like you might think, well, there might be people in the office. Yeah, but they're busy making all their other videos, so it's hard that way. Mad Hat Tom, so it is that Ash. I thought I recognized him. Also, am I crazy, or would Nagash make an excellent Transcendent Catan? That actually is kind of cool. He would be a neat Transcendent Catan. Almost out of time. I'll answer a couple more questions. Svendlium. Matt, here is what I need you to do in your narrative campaigns. In the very first campaign, The Fate of Fume, when you did your story time, you had background music. Call it what you will. But ever since then, you have not. For me personally, the ambience while getting told a story really helped me relax and invest myself in the story you were telling. It was not very loud and just felt right. Please bring that back. Now you can say Dave gives all that and more, but the problem there is he has gone too far. He is giving me images of stuff that kills the story time for me. Sounds of flames and demonic voices. I have enough of them in my head as it is. I can't relax and invest myself in all that. Remember, sometimes less is more. Yeah, I probably should try putting music in this next campaign that we just started. Ash2532. Hi, I'm Matt. Love the content. Been a Vault member for 6 months now, and it's amazing how far you have come in 6 months. The quality is fantastic. I think you should give you and your team a pat on the back. Thank you for the great work you do to entertain and also educate new players. Vault member for life. Ash, P.S. Vault member for life, Ash. P.S. Tell Dave Corn rules all. XYZ Dude 0. You guys always talk about Lord of the Rings, but you never have had a battle report as far as I know. Would it be possible if you and Dave would do a Lord of the Rings battle report? We don't actually have miniatures for it anymore. And like I just talked about with all the different games, it's just not something that we're going to be covering anytime soon. Youster12. Hey Matt, relatively new Vault member here from Puerto Rico. I joined 40K Thanks Mini Wargame, and I'm a fellow NIDS player. Awesome. My questions are as follows. 1. What is your opinion about Come the Apocalypse allies in general, and in specific for Tyranids? I think they're fine. Tyranids not having allies makes sense. And so the Come the Apocalypse ones where they have to deploy further away, it could more be like they happen to be on the same place at the same time. Or it could be like a gene stealer cult kind of thing. So that seems fine. 2, what is your opinion on Imperial Assassins fluff-wise and rules-wise? You mean in the Assassin, the data slate? I just talked about that, and I do like them. Fluff-wise as well. Woodrow, Wimpy, Matt, are you going to have a contest to choose a new Tau color scheme? Did I say last week that we're like starting a whole new Tau army right away? Because all of a sudden everybody's like, hey, I'm so excited for the Tau. I know I mentioned that we're eventually going to have Tau, but I don't remember seeing anything like big news. No, we're not going to do a Tau color scheme contest. Peter Gooding, just want to say congratulations on the Storm of Ixia. What an awesome campaign that was. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you. One more comment or question. Youster12, hey Matt, relatively new member here from, oh, you already, that was a double one. Chris56 Ryan, hi Matt, loving the site as always. Thank you. It just keeps on getting better. I'm even trying to get into Infinity now too. I had a question though. I've been looking at starting and making my own videos, and I'm still in the process of getting started. I was looking at your old vids and starting a channel, and was just wondering, is there any chance you would consider doing an updated version of these now that you have much more experience? I don't know, because those ones didn't get a lot of views. Even if they look like they have a lot of views now, it's because they're old. So I'm not sure if, I don't know if it'll be worth my time to take away from doing battle reports to do that. Also, when it comes to lighting, both yourselves and others are always telling us it's the most important thing, but what I need is how do you get good lighting? This is where Google is great, because there's tons of tutorials already out there about studio stuff. It is not unique to wargaming, so just do lots of Google and YouTube searches for that, and do all your research through that, and you'll find your answers. Like how you went about it, any ideas you came across. Thanks, Chris. Definitely, all these things, the nice thing about it is making videos in a studio is not new, and so there's tons of information already on the internet about that, so I would definitely look into doing that. How we do battle reports and stuff, that's more unique to our industry, but I think you can gather a lot from just watching them as well. So I can't guarantee that we'll ever be doing another series on how to start your own channel and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, thank you very much for watching the Sit and Talk. Please leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. If you're watching on our site, if you're watching on YouTube, of course, click the link in the video description and then leave a comment there to be answered for next week's show. As always, happy wargaming.